thrilled to be joined by Jane Hanson on the podcast today. You are an Emmy Award-winning journalist turned
Mhm.
high impact communication coach, and I am thrilled to talk to you today. Thanks for joining me.
You're very welcome. It's nice to meet you.
Yes,
And
it is.
what a
I feel
fun
so
topic.
blessed. Yeah, I feel blessed to have a platform where I can have conversations like this and really direct important messages like yours to help anyone, but specifically my audience of female entrepreneurs, learn how to have that high impact communication in a digital world where we're always attending online meetings, where we want to have the right messaging on social media. And those aren't skills that we're necessarily taught or learned. So let's just dive in. So, like I said, you're an Emmy award-winning journalist turned communications coach. What what inspired that transition?
Well, I worked for NBC in New York for close to 30 years. And for a very long time I did early morning newscasts. So I got up at 3:20 a.m. And when my daughter became, well, a tween, all of a sudden I realized she will go to be going to bed later than me. We lived in the city of New York, and I'm thinking to myself, what kind of trouble could she possibly get into? So I was privileged enough to be able to be allowed to have a show of my own that covered all kinds of wonderful. The premise of the show was, let's try to bring New York back after 9/11 and all kinds of other things that happened in the 2000s. And as long as I could relate something to New York City, I could do anything. So I traveled all over the world with the show and I had a wonderful time. But there was always a deadline. Big news always happened on the day before I was going on vacation or on a holiday. And I just thought, it's time for me to step away from this. And I had an aha moment when I was in the studio one day, and and to this day, I can't even tell you who I was interviewing, but I know it was a gentleman who was there to talk about his book. And he said something interesting. And so I immediately took him down this pathway because I wanted to speak about all kinds of others. Now I had brand new questions because I thought that was much more interesting for our audience. And when we finished, he said, as we left the studio, he said, I didn't get to say what I wanted to say. And a light bulb went off in my head because I thought, I know how to teach people to really get back to their message, to be able to speak well and to deliver what they want to deliver, to have them choreograph interviews, choreograph presentations, choreograph conversations like you and I are having. And that's really where it came from. And I realized there was a big demand for it. And the demand, while everybody else during COVID was trying to figure out what the heck are we doing, I'd been using Zoom and other kinds of virtual training so I could do things with people globally. So it came to me really naturally. And in fact, during COVID, it was like, boom, we need you. We need your help. So in a certain respect, I already had the digital tools and knew how to do it. So that was a really important part of my ability to help people, help them communicate better. But we all learn as we go along about how we're talking, what we're saying, and how it's really being perceived. And it's important for people to understand where they are in kind of that whole game.
Yeah. You know what I love most about everything that you just said is this whole idea that we can learn. Because
Hmm.
I think it's a skill that you feel like others are born with, or you have it or you don't. And it's not necessarily something you can cultivate. So I love that idea. But talk to us about how learning the skills that you teach can increase our confidence in the digital world that we live in, because I don't think that we realize how much that factors into our confidence.
Well, first of all, confidence, I don't think we're born confident. I think we develop confidence. And confidence is developed in different ways by different people. And we have to really take a look at what is confidence. Well, confidence to me means that when you walk into a room, you're walking in there feeling like yourself, your authentic, real self, that you're unafraid to deliver whatever messages you have to deliver, and that you understand the power that you yourself can have to help others. And the interesting thing about confidence, when we see confident people, they're not the ones who are bragging about themselves. They're not the ones who are in your face. They're the ones who are, maybe they're quieter. Perhaps they're an excellent listener. When we talk about developing confidence, it's really called, in the world I work in, it's called developing executive presence, which means it's correlated or equivalent to leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And there are two really important things in that executive presence and leadership. One, are you likable? And two, are you trustworthy? Without those two things, it doesn't matter what you do. If people don't like you, they don't want to work with you, they don't want to be around you, etc. And if they can't trust you, well, you definitely don't want anything to do with that human being. So now we have to think, what will make me likable? And one of the most interesting things about what makes you likable is that, as you are as a podcaster, is that you are an excellent listener. And that is a skill we can truly develop.
Yeah, I mean, how many times have we gone to order something or had a conversation with somebody in customer service and they go to answer a question before we've even completed it? I mean, how
Mm-hmm.
frustrating is that? And as somebody who has to learn how to listen so much to my guests and my clients, oh, there is nothing that I hate more. And I just want to say, just listen, and not be so quick to respond. So I love that you mentioned that.
Mm-hmm. So that's a really important component. And so that's one part of it. I could talk for hours on this subject, so cut me off. But at any, which by the way, means I'm not being an excellent listener. Um, uh, but the other thing about gaining confidence is people talk about imposter syndrome, and women have more of an issue with it than men do. There's all kinds of statistics that say women perceive themselves as 30% less than the world sees them, whereas men believe they're 30% more than the world perceives them. And in fact, if you look at, I just did an article for Forbes um, about the gender pay gap and how women will only apply for a job if they believe they have every one of the criteria, whereas a guy might say, I got 60% of that, I'm going for it.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to develop a way I just really encourage women out there, because I know that's most of your audience, I really want to encourage them to think about, how am I being perceived and how can I change that perception if it needs to be changed? Here's a little trick. And what I suggest is that you go to 5 people that know you well: parents, spouse, partner, peer, somebody you work with, best friend, cousins, siblings, whoever it is. Pick 5 people and ask them for a phrase of adjectives to describe you. And you're going to be shocked,
Mm-hmm.
because they'll say things to you that you didn't even realize you did or you were, etc. The second thing is, video yourself. Everybody's got a camera. Turn on the video and put it someplace. Set it while you're having a conversation, maybe, or when you're getting ready to make a presentation or have a conversation with somebody that you really want to work on. Video yourself, because I use video as the biggest tool ever in my business. And I'll say to someone, you've got a really funny twitch with your nose, or you shake your head when you talk, and they go, no, I don't. And then I show them the video. They have no idea what they're doing.
Yep.
So all of that will help you understand how the world sees you, because it's completely different than the way we see ourselves. So that will help you gain confidence. Once you can change up some of those little things, and I'm talking about really subtle little things. I'm not talking about a whole great big makeover that's going to take you years. I'm talking about one thing at a time that you can change, that will enhance your confidence and will enhance the way people see you.
Mm-hmm. And when you were talking, what I was thinking about is we often think we have to become some other version of ourselves that we think
Mm-mm.
other people want us to be. But I think one of the biggest strengths that you can have is to realize you just need to connect with yourself and just be yourself. What are your thoughts on
Well,
that?
well, I couldn't agree with you more. There's a reason the word authenticity
Mm-hmm.
is overused these days. I was working with them. I was working with somebody that talked about intergenerational issues, conversation issues, work issues, and um, they. One of the things that I was told was this Gen Z generation, which the oldest are now like 28 years old or so, that they can smell somebody who's being inauthentic a mile away. So what does that mean? It means that we believe we have to have some other kind of persona
Mm.
because of our job or because of what we think we need to be. And people know it. They know when you're not being real.
Right.
So be real, be yourself. Don't be afraid to let that personality come out. And I'm telling you, the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And the more you trust yourself, trust who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And that will, it will, it will take you so far, just so far in changing up your life.
Yeah, I can't agree more. And actually, as a confidence coach, I always tell clients like the lack of confidence is the disconnect with self.
Mhm.
When you're not comfortable being who you are and you don't know what that's like, practicing, like you said, videoing yourself, it's so important. Well, so let's talk about those first impressions. And we all know how important they are, and body language and tone and some of those small shifts that you talked about that people can make to make a bigger impact. What are some of those things that we should keep in mind?
You have approximately 3 seconds to make a first impression.
No pressure.
No pressure, which means you probably haven't even opened your mouth yet. If you make a bad first impression, to recoup on that with that individual or group of people will take you approximately 8 more meetings before you're going to get them to change their mind about you. So that first impression is crucial. And it's much of it has nothing to do with what we're saying or what we're going to say. It has to do with our posture, the way we walk into a room, the way we shake somebody's hand, the smile we have on our face, the engagement that you can see. There's a reason we say put your best foot forward because it's all about you not wanting to impress someone. What you want to do is be memorable. And you're memorable because they want to see more of you and they like you and they think they can trust you.
Mm.
That's the heart of a first impression. So, great thing is like when you're networking I just came back from a convention last week that I was at, and you don't want to ask questions that are very like, oh, how do you like the weather here? Or I happened to be in Las Vegas and it was 100 degrees. You don't want to start with, oh, isn't it hot out? You want to start with something that's going to be intriguing. So think of some good first opening lines that would be interesting. Great example. Oh, I can see that you're wearing blah blah blah. Um, or whatever it could be. It could be something nonsensical or just whatever it is.
Mm.
But think of something that's interesting and intriguing that's going to get people to want to be near you.
Mm.
And then you start that conversation. But again, getting back to the listening thing, you ask the more questions you ask somebody, the more they're going to like you because you're interested in them. And it's funny because sometimes you'll walk away and you'll realize that they know nothing about you, but you've basically got every piece of information you could possibly want from that human being, or at least
Yeah.
as a starter.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that that's the key thing that most people listen is or miss is that listening point. We
Mhm.
want to make it harder than it really is, right? And I think that that's so. Make it simple. How can we
Yep,
make this easy? I
right.
always tell myself that about so many things. So what are some things that we can actually do on like a video call like this? I've heard one of the tips that you could do is actually show your hands. That like
Mhm.
neurologically, we feel like if we see somebody's hands, like they're not as threatening. Um, Making eye contact, I'm sure that that's a great one. But what are some of
Mhm.
the other tips we can keep in mind for video calls?
I would like everybody to think about this screen as being your own personal television studio.
Mm,
And think about the people that you watch on television, even if you're thinking of actors or newscasters, that sort of thing. How do they connect through the camera? Well, they connect because of good eye contact,
mm-hmm.
facial expressions that are real. When you look like you're listening, you're doing something right now. You're nodding as I'm talking. And when you nod, that gets people to say, oh, she's getting my point. Also, the way you use your voice. We've only got this much of us, the top of our head to, just the middle of our chest or so to show off. But you can use your hands. Gestures are really important because they emphasize the important points we make. But you've got to be a little cautious with them on a screen like this because if I start using them in front of my face, you're going to go, what is that nutcase doing?
Right.
And you're going to be distracted by my hands. So that in that case, we want to keep our hands to do something like, well, point number one, point number two, point number three. So use them for something like that where it makes sense. We we believe it or not, you can actually learn a lot about a person through a phone call because of the way they use their voice. So even phone calls in today's world will give people lots of information about us and getting back to whether they like us, they
Mm-hmm.
trust us. Because if you're on the phone, I want you to think about standing up. Do not have a screen near you. Put your, you know, whatever you're using. If you stand up, it's much harder to be distracted by an email that comes in or something. Secondly, do a little bit of breathing ahead of time because that makes I, I do this breathing exercise. It's you breathe in for 3 counts, hold it for 3 counts, breathe out for 3 counts, do it 3 times. And that makes us breathe deeper into our diaphragm. And when we do that, our voice gets a little lower. And when we have a lower voice, it's considered to be more soothing, it's more credible. And so we want that. So you can do that on the phone. And if you have a smile on your face when you're talking, it warms up the conversation. It literally comes through the phone. Just like you can see a smile here, if it's appropriate. You're not going to do it when it's a terrible conversation of some sort or when it's bad news, but do it when you're just having this nice, friendly conversation. So, those are a few things that one can do. I would also highly suggest that you make sure you have your camera on when you're on a Zoom call or Microsoft Teams or whatever you're using. I've had many CEOs tell me that when someone doesn't have their camera on, they become very suspicious of what they're doing. Are they multitasking? Are they doing, some other piece of work? Or maybe they're not even doing maybe they're not even listening. So they start to pay more attention to that person. So if you have to have the camera off for a reason, then say that at the beginning. Set it out there. That's
Mm-hmm.
being real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've all had those moments, whether we're like we have to drive our kids somewhere or we're in a doctor's office or something like that. I
Sure.
think that that's really wise.
Hmm. It really is because otherwise, what are you doing? If this call isn't
Right,
important enough for you to show your face, then why are you on it?
right. No, I totally agree. And if you're really nervous being on camera, just sit on camera by yourself and record yourself and I don't know, read a book or something.
Mhm.
So it is hard. It is not something that comes natural. 5 years ago, when I started this podcast, it was cringy. It was so difficult. But now it's like nothing. I don't even think about it. But I connect with other people who are high performing entrepreneurs who have a hard time with it.
Mhm.
So it's definitely a skill that you can learn, and it's an important one. So, what are some of the other common communication mistakes that you think we're making, or you wish you could tell people that you see, like, oh, gosh, if you just wouldn't do this.
Well, it starts with when you look at all of the studies that have been done, every single one of there's three key things that we look at. Who are you talking to? What are you saying? And how are you delivering it?
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that is really annoying to me is when we don't think about who our audience is. And so we talk about the same stuff, but we haven't recognized that we're talking to entrepreneurs today. But if we were talking to the CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, we would probably not be having the same conversation. We might deliver some of the same messages, but they'd be delivered in a different way. Or if we won't talk to a baby boomer the same way we're going to talk to um, a next gen
Mm-hmm.
or a Gen Z. I mean, we just wouldn't. So you want to think about your audience always. Who are they, and why should they care about what you have to say? The second thing is that when we get to the message, then there's something we call messaging math, which is usually if I asked you what's 9 times 1, you'd say,
What?
9 times 1 is usually in math, 9. But in messaging math, it's 2 and it's 0. So now if I say, what's 3 times 3? Again, you'd say 9. But I'd say it's one, maybe 2. That's how many messages you are going to get people to listen to. So if you have 9 different messages, they're going to listen to a darn one. If you have 3 messages, they might get 2 of them, certainly 1. So I want you to think very clearly, what's the headline? What do I want people to walk away from this conversation with? And then build what you're going to say all around reinforcing that headline consistently. And I see people that just drone on, and they're throwing all this stuff out there. They've got a whole giant basket full of things they want you to think about, and you can't do it because it's too complicated. There's too much. The human brain can't absorb all of that so quickly. So focus on what it is you want people to know and understand. Now we get to the delivery part. And if you look at all of the studies, they will tell you that 93% of the way we resonate with people is through our voice and our body language. Only 7% is content. I don't want people to think that the content doesn't matter, because it does. But if you can't deliver it in a way that's going to engage whomever you're speaking to, then what's it worth? Because they're getting nothing out of it. So you have to pay attention to, how are you using your voice? Are you loud? Are you soft? Are you monotone? Because I'm not really going to listen if you're just going to talk to me like this. It's going to be really quite boring. So you have to have inflections. And think about, how do I speak? That's another place where you can just listen, watch yourself on camera, just a Zoom call for one, and record it, or just use your phone and tape yourself or video yourself. I shouldn't say tape. Um, so that's one part, is how you use your voice. And then the next part is, how are you using everything else? We've talked about gestures. We've talked about eye contact. I want you to think about your posture. When somebody's really slumped over, we don't give them much regard. So have your posture be upright, and then be present. Be present in that moment. So it's all about how we deliver it. And I would love, if there's nothing else, that's really what I want people to take away from this, is how you deliver makes a huge difference in achieving your goals, audience's goals,
Yeah.
whomever that audience is, whether it's your family or your business, whatever it is. Think about that.
Yeah, no, such great tips. I know we're running up a little bit against time. You've reminded us. I think one of the big takeaways is that if we can learn these skills, but we can also just be intentional about them,
Mhm.
and just not show up willy-nilly, and really think about how we use our body language, how we use our voice, how we're being present, like you mentioned.
Mhm.
Um, and I've enjoyed being present with you. I've learned so much and thought about, you've been so graceful, and just with your time and what you've had to share. I appreciate it. If you could leave listeners with a few tips on how they can start to better communicate this week, what would that be?
I would say great preparation before you do anything, before you're going to be someplace where you are either selling your products or yourself or your business. Do really good prep about what is it I want people to know about me. You'd be shocked at how many people, when I say, so tell me about your business. And they struggle with it. They don't have kind of that, what do you call it? They don't have their mission down. And so get that together. It'll constantly it'll evolve, but have it in a good place, so people instantly, in the first 30 seconds, will know what it is you're there to tell them about. So good prep, just, you know, watch yourself. I really believe you should put yourself on video, take a look at it with a very discerning eye. Now, what I find is that a lot of people will say, oh, I can't watch myself. I'm just so awful. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. Well, do it. And then pick one thing you're going to work on every week. Maybe that one thing is my eye contact was all over the place. Okay. This week, you're going to focus on good eye contact and really focus on it. Then maybe one other thing you noticed was that your voice at times sounded weak or not confident. Practice that. So maybe the second week you'll say, I'm going to work on my voice this week. I'm going to see how I can make it be a little bit more professional sounding or more endearing or whatever it is you need to do. Then another thing is just looking at how you present yourself from top to bottom. Every part of our appearance counts. The way we dress. Now, obviously, we're on a Zoom, so we're not seeing part of us. But if you're going to be out in person, you want to make sure you look good from top to bottom. Think about what you're telling people about yourself by the way you look, because you're definitely sending a message. So when you are preparing to go somewhere or you're getting on a Zoom with a particular person, maybe look up that company. How do they dress? What do they look like? So you can be prepared, because it shows that you've got a great ability to do your homework when you do that. But it also means that you will be seen as someone who can fit into whatever they're doing. You want to be your real self, but you still also want to fit in. You're not going to talk to some people who are in the tech world and be for guys in a suit and tie, or maybe with pearls and a jacket up around your neck. You're going to be dressed like they dress. So just think about that. Appearance counts. Can't help ourselves. So it's really a matter of thinking I can change little things one by one by one. And the end result is going to make me somebody who's doing a better job, who feels much more confident, and who absolutely loves what you're doing. And let your passion show, by the way. That's a true sign of confidence. If you let your passion for something just shine through.
Yeah. You've been so generous with your time and your expertise and your insight, and that really can transform listeners' impact. Because I think that's all, we can't look at it so selfishly. It's about the impact that we want to have and the message we want to deliver. So I really encourage listeners to take that pressure off of yourself. Think about what you want to achieve. And I think you reminded us of that, Jane. So thank you so much. And tell listeners where they can connect with you and learn more.
You can go to my website, which is Jane Hanson, HANSON.com. And there's a whole page there where you can reach out to me if you want to. And my email is very simple. It's jane@janehanson.com. So.
It's very simple. I love it. And if for some reason it's hard, I'll leave a link in the show notes anyway.
That's great. Well, and I'm also all over social media. On Instagram, I'm Jane Hanson Official. So you can always reach me. There's all kinds of ways to reach people these days, and it's wonderful.
All right. Thank you so much, Jane.
You're very welcome. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thank you so much. You too.